Hello, children. I hope you all enjoyed your winter break and had a nice time. But now we have to come back to our studies. And today I'll start with the poem Television. Television is written by Roald Dahl, and he was one of the most prolific modern writers in English and is well known as a children's author. He was a British novelist, short story writer, poet, screenwriter, fighter pilot, and has a large fan following among young readers. The poem Television is a famous poem of Dahl that advises and inspires to read books instead of watching television. The poem takes a comic look at a serious problem among young children today. The poem warns us about the dangers of excessive television watching. He tells us that the TV robs the mind of the power of imagination and creativity. Dahl, in his characteristic exaggerated style, warns that we will become zombies if we keep staring uninterrupted at the television for long hours. He also advises us to read books because this will enable us to discover deeper levels of joy. And we will find fulfillment in life, and reading will open a whole new and exciting world for us. The poem is a long one but very simple in language and form. The poet has used capital letters to mark the important portions, particularly where he is telling about the harmful and undesired consequences of watching television. Now I will start with the explanation. I'll be reading the lines and explaining it to you. You may follow in your books. Television by Roald Dahl. The most important thing we have learned so far as children are concerned is never, never, never let them near your television set. Now, here the poet starts by saying that as far as children are concerned, we have learned, here refers to the readers, particularly the parents, have learned a very important thing. And that important thing is that parents should never allow their children to go near the television set. This is also like an advice to the parents, the poet's advice to the parents, that they should not allow their children to go near the television set. Or better still, just don't install the idiotic thing at all. And here the poet tells the parents that it would be better if they just don't install, that is, if they just don't keep the idiotic thing in their house. Now here the idiotic thing is referred to the television. And why is it referred to as an idiotic thing? Because according to the poet, the television does not show anything useful. It just fools the people, particularly little children. In almost every house we have been, we have watched them gaping at the screen. Now here the poet shares his experience that in almost every house we have been. Now here we have is referred to the poet and some other person with him. So he says that in almost every house that they had visited, they had watched, they had seen children gaping at the screen. Gaping means continuously staring at the television screen. They are just sitting and watching television most of the time. They loll and slop and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out. And here the poet says that they are so busy in watching the television that the children don't see what posture also they are when they are watching the television. That is, they loll and slop and lounge about. All these words, loll, slop, lounge, all these are referred to sitting or standing or lying about lazily, in a very lazy manner, sitting and watching television in a lazy manner. And they stare until their eyes pop out, and they keep on watching television until it seems as if their eyes pop out, their eyes come out. Last week in someone's place, we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. Now, here the poet has written in a humorous way that last week in someone's place, in somebody's house, they saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. That is, due to excessive TV watching, a dozen eyeballs of the children had popped out and they were lying on the floor. Now, this is just a humorous way in which the poet has expressed his view about watching television. They sit and stare and stare and sit until they are hypnotized by it. Now, the children, they continuously sit and they stare and sit in front of the television set. All the time they are watching something or the other until they are hypnotized by it. Hypnotized means to be under the spell of, to be under the charm of something, as if you are controlled by something. So children also sit and watch television as if they are under the control of television set. They can't leave watching television, whatever is coming on the television, until they are absolutely drunk with all that shocking, ghastly junk. And they keep on watching television until they are absolutely drunk. Absolutely drunk means until their minds are filled with all that shocking, ghastly junk. And what fills their mind? What is filled in their minds when they are watching all that is there shown on the television? Their minds are filled with shocking, ghastly. Ghastly means frightening junk. Junk means useless things. So their minds are filled with shocking and frightening, useless things. Oh, yes, we know it keeps them still. They don't climb out the window sill. They never fight or kick or punch. They leave you free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. Now, here the poet is giving reasons also as to why parents allow their children to watch television. Now, here you can see there are different points written over there, and you learn all these points to answer the question as to why children are allowed, why parents allow children to watch television. So the first reason given is that it keeps them still. When children are watching television, they sit still. They sit in one place. They don't move about. They just sit in one place and watch television. They don't climb out the window sill. Second point is they don't climb out the window sill. That is, they don't do any mischief like climbing out of window sill. They never fight or kick or punch. And then when there are other siblings in the house, they don't fight with each other. They don't kick or punch each other. That is, they don't start fighting or beating each other because they are so busy just watching television. It keeps them still. They don't fight with each other. They leave you free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. And here, the parents, particularly the mothers, are left free. When the children are watching television, the mothers are free to do their work in the house, like cooking the lunch and washing the dishes in the sink. So, because of all these reasons, parents just leave their children to watch television for long hours. But did you ever stop to think, to wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved Dot? Now, here the poet is asking a question to the parents, that have they ever stopped to think and have they ever wondered what exactly television watching, this continuous television watching, is doing to their beloved Tot. Beloved Tot means to their loving child. It rots the sense in the head, it kills imagination dead. Now, here the poet has asked the question to the parents, but he answers it in a he answers that same question in a very brilliant manner. And he uses, now here you see, the poet has used capital letters. And why has he used capital letters? To emphasize these points. That is, he has mentioned the harmful effects, the undesired consequences of watching television. It rots the sense in the head. So it means that children are drawn away from reality. They just believe whatever they watch, and what they see is not the reality, but still they think that whatever they are watching are a reality. They are real things. They think that whatever they see on television, it is all real. Then it kills imagination dead. It kills the power of imagination in the head. The children are not able to do their own thinking, they are not able to imagine, and they also lose their own creative thinking. So, in a way, the children lose their power of imagination when they are all the time watching junk, all useless thing on the television. It clogs and clutters up the mind. Continuous television watching blocks and clutters up the mind. Clutters up means it fills the mind of the child with useless thoughts. It makes a child so dull and blind he can no longer understand a fantasy, a fairy land. Watching television also makes the child so dull and blind. That is, the child is not able to think for himself, and he is blind. That is, he doesn't want to see the reality. And so he no longer understand a fantasy or a fairy land. That is a story related to fairies. His brain becomes as soft as cheese. His brain becomes as soft as cheese means that the children are easily, their mind is easily influenced by what they see on television, and they easily believe also whatever they see, whether it is true or not. His powers of thinking rust and freeze. Rust and freeze means the child cannot think on their own. He cannot think about certain realities of life. He cannot think, he only sees. And why cannot he use his power of thinking? Because he is only seeing things on television. All right, you'll cry, all right, you'll say, but if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain our darling children? Please explain. Now here it is a question asked by the parents, that all right, the poet is giving so many reasons, so many harmful effects of watching television, but the question that the parents are asking is that if they take the television set away, if they remove the television set, then what will they do to entertain their darling children? Please explain. So they want an explanation from the poet as to how they will entertain, how the children will spend their free time when there is no television set. What use the darling ones to? We will answer this by asking you, what use the darling ones to do? How use they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? Now, here the poet answers the question of the parents by asking a question himself in return. And what is that question that the poet now asks the parents? That what did the darling ones do, and how did they keep themselves occupied? Contented means how did they keep themselves occupied before this monster was invented? How did the children keep themselves occupied? How did they spend their time before this monster was invented? Now, here also you can see the poet has referred to the television set as a monster, because according to the poet, the television is showing all rubbish to the children. It is not showing realities to children. So the poet himself asks a question in return as to how children used to entertain themselves before the television set was invented. Now, this much for today, children. I'll teach the other half in the next class. You revise whatever I have taught you today.